Chapter 21. Confrontation at the Volcano. Auren and Thalios stood before Ignis's volcanic territory. Streams of molten lava flowed down the mountainside, and the oppressive heat filled the air. The rumbling from deep within the earth formed an unending rhythm, as if the volcano itself was awakening.
"We've arrived," Thalios said gravely.
"The first fragment lies somewhere within this land." Auren raised the eternal torch, its light cutting a path through the shimmering heat.
"Be vigilant.
This place is not only dangerous, but also home to creatures fiercely guarding their territory." Ignis appeared in a swirling vortex of fire, his form glowing with an intense orange radiance.
"You cannot tread this land lightly."
"The rivers of lava are not just natural obstacles, they are traps laid by our enemies."
Auren nodded. "We'll face whatever comes, but we need your help to guide us."
Reluctantly, Ignis agreed, though unease lingered in his expression. As the group approached the volcanic crater, a dark mist rose from the ground. Kailis, a shadowy entity once sealed here, emerged amidst the molten lava, his glowing red eyes piercing the darkness.
"You think you can claim the fragment?" he roared.
"This is my domain, and no one crosses it."
Kailis raised his arm, summoning a massive storm of black fire that engulfed the area, forcing the group to retreat. Ignis stepped forward, his eyes blazing like an erupting volcano. "Kailis, I've let you linger for too long. Today you'll be destroyed once and for all," he charged, unleashing a colossal pillar of flame directly at Kailis. But Kailis effortlessly countered with his black fire, the collision of the two forces creating a massive explosion that shook the mountain.
"You are weak compared to me, Ignis," Kailis taunted, his voice reverberating. "Your flame is nothing more than a flicker." As the battle raged, Ignis began to lose control of his power. Flames erupted uncontrollably from his body, endangering his allies.
"You must regain control!"
Auren shouted. But Ignis couldn't hear him. Kailis seized the opportunity, bombarding Ignis with waves of black fire, leaving him gravely injured and teetering on the brink of falling into the lava. Seeing the dire situation, Alondra stepped forward. Raising her hands, she summoned the light of the eternal torch, a power Auren had taught her. "Light will never allow darkness to prevail," she cried, creating a radiant shield that protected Ignis from the black flames. The light from her shield was so strong that it weakened Kailis's fire, forcing him to retreat momentarily. Meanwhile, Thalios used his oceanic powers to summon streams of water vapor, cooling the molten heat.
"I'll hold him off! Find the fragment!" he yelled, charging at Kailis.
Kailis roared in frustration, distracted by Thalios, giving the group a chance to delve deeper into the volcano's heart. At the volcano's core, the group found the first fragment resting atop a massive rock, guarded by a colossal fire creature, the ancient flame beast. The creature roared at their intrusion, hurling massive fireballs that forced the group to scatter.
"We can't fight it head on, we need to calm it down," Auren commanded firmly.
As the group struggled against the fiery beast, Solian arrived, wielding his hourglass to slow time around the creature.
"I can't hold this for long. Quickly, retrieve the fragment," he shouted, sweat beading on his forehead.
Auren and Alondra worked together, combining their light to break through the protective barrier surrounding the fragment. Finally, they secured it. But the flame beast thrashed violently, sensing its loss.
Kailis, sensing his defeat, unleashed a final explosion to destroy the entire volcano. Lava erupted from every direction, creating unstoppable rivers of molten destruction. With her newfound strength, Alondra created a luminous pathway, guiding the group out of the volcano just before it collapsed completely. Once safely outside, the group gazed at the now quiet volcano.
Ignis, though injured, stood tall, though he knew his strength had been severely diminished. "You saved me, Alondra," Ignis said solemnly. "You're stronger than I thought." Alondra offered a faint smile. "It's my responsibility." Auren held the fragment in his hand, its radiant light brighter than any they had seen before.
"This is just the beginning. We still have 3 more fragments to find."
Thalios looked toward the horizon, where the vast ocean awaited. "The next fragment won't be any easier. We must be ready." As the group prepared to continue their journey, Alondra felt a chilling presence emanating from the ocean. "Something is waiting for us there." But it's not just the fragment, it's the darkness itself. Chapter 22. The Trial of the Ocean. The deities departed the Temple of Light with heightened vigilance. The deep ocean, home to the second shard of the shards of creation, was a challenge they could not take lightly. "This ocean is not just dangerous because of the guardian creature," Thalios warned. It's because darkness is slowly taking over this place. Alondra felt a chill run down her spine. I can sense the presence of darkness. It's not just coming from the depths but creeping into us as well. As they approached the ocean, the sky turned an ominous gray, and massive waves crashed against the shore, roaring like tortured screams. The once tranquil sea had become a scene of devastation and chaos. Look! Solara pointed toward the horizon. Something's moving beneath the water. Suddenly, massive whirlpools formed, as if the ocean itself were trying to swallow the group whole.
The group ventured into the ocean aboard a boat protected by Thalios's magic. However, as they reached a deceptively calm stretch of water, a violent tremor shook everything. "This is no natural quake," Thalios cautioned. "Something is waiting for us." A thunderous roar echoed across the ocean, and from beneath the waves, a colossal creature emerged. The Sea King beast, an ancient dragon-like sea creature, was covered in glowing scales and had fiery red eyes. The beast attacked immediately, sending towering columns of water crashing down around them. Thalios tried to counter with summoned whirlpools, but the creature's strength far exceeded expectations. Alondra stood in the center of the boat, casting light to shield the group from the relentless strikes. "We can't defeat it with brute force!" she shouted. Solara stepped forward, her eyes glowing. "Let me try. Perhaps it's not an enemy but a guardian defending its territory." Solara summoned the power of nature, creating a mangrove forest beneath the waves to encircle the Sea King beast. Using her magic, she attempted to communicate with the creature, trying to soothe its aggression. "You don't have to protect the shard by destroying everything," she said. "We're not here to harm but to save this world." The Sea King beast paused, as though listening. But the darkness from the ocean depths quickly enveloped it, driving it into a frenzied rage. Thalios decided to unleash his strongest attack to subdue the beast. He summoned a massive tsunami, creating a wall of water to push the creature back. However, infused with dark energy, the Sea King beast shattered the tsunami with a single powerful swing of its tail, sending the group flying from their boat. Despite her injuries, Alondra stood and channeled all the light magic she had learned from Auren. She formed a massive sword of light, striking at the darkness surrounding the Sea King beast. The light cut through part of the darkness, calming the creature momentarily. But the effort left Alondra exhausted, and she collapsed, causing the group to worry. As the Sea King beast stopped its assault, it lowered its head to Solara, granting the group passage to an underwater cavern. Inside the cavern, the shard's light reflected off the walls, creating a stunning, ethereal glow. Yet, shadows lingered in every corner, a stark reminder of the looming threat. As they approached the shard, a figure emerged from the darkness. Cloaked stranger, with eyes glinting with mystery. "You've come for the shard, but do you know the curse that comes with it?" he asked. The group stood on guard. "Who are you?" Auren demanded, his voice stern. "I am but a messenger," the stranger replied. "Malgrath knows your plans, and will stop at nothing to ensure you fail." Alondra sensed a cold presence behind her. She turned to see darkness spreading across the ocean, swallowing every remaining trace of light. "We must leave immediately," she shouted. Thalios used his water magic to create a safe passage, but the encroaching darkness relentlessly pursued them. The group pooled their powers to fend it off, working together to protect the shard as they escaped. On their way back, the deities realized that their unity was key to overcoming the darkness. Despite their lingering conflicts, they combined their strengths to ensure their survival and protect the shard. When the group returned to the surface, Alondra gazed at the newly acquired shard, feeling the immense yet perilous energy emanating from it. "We've succeeded, but the darkness won't stop," she said. "There are still many challenges ahead," Auren replied, "and Malgrath will do everything in his power to stop us." The group looked toward the horizon, where the shadows continued to spread. A new journey awaited them, fraught with danger but filled with determination. Chapter 23. The Trap Within the Castle of Shadows. Nyxara and Zephyra led the group to a grim castle situated in the heart of a dead forest. This castle was rumored to be where Umbra hid one of the fragments of the shards of creation. The towering castle loomed over them, its spires entangled with withered vines. The feeble sunlight failed to pierce the dense, black clouds shrouding the area. "I feel this place holds more than just shadows. It's a trap," Zephyra said, her eyes darting cautiously. Nyxara nodded slightly, gripping her staff tightly. "Be careful. Everything here might be an illusion." As the group ventured deeper into the castle's grand hall, darkness suddenly engulfed the space. From above, Umbra materialized.
his body blending seamlessly with the shadows, his eyes glowing like twin flames of crimson. "Do you truly believe you can traverse this place without paying the price?" His voice reverberated throughout the chamber. Umbra unleashed the dance of shadows, conjuring illusions that divided the gods. Now, Nyxara and Zephyra suddenly lost sight of each other, each drawn into their own private world of darkness and screams.
Nyxara found herself standing in a field bathed in dim light, haunted by eerie, whispering voices. Gradually, darkness enveloped her, pulling her into a deep dream room. Realizing the illusion, Nyxara closed her eyes, focused her strength, and cast Lullaby of Dreams. A gentle wave of energy spread out, dispelling the surrounding darkness. "I will not let the shadows take hold of my mind," she declared, her eyes glowing with resolve. Meanwhile, Zephyra was trapped in a room with no exits. The shifting shadows in the room morphed into sorrowful memories from her past. But with the energy from Nyxara's Lullaby of Dreams, Zephyra regained her willpower. She summoned the power of the wind, creating a vortex that blew away the shadows. "Your darkness cannot imprison me," she shouted, as her wind-crafted wings unfurled, shattering the illusionary space. After escaping their illusions, Nyxara and Zephyra reunited in the castle's center. There, they discovered a stone wall etched with ancient runes. "This is a puzzle," Nyxara said, her gaze fixed on the inscriptions. "We must solve it to unlock the path to the shard's hiding place." Alindra stepped forward, her eyes narrowing in concentration. "Let me try," she offered. Using the light from an artifact in her hand, Alindra began deciphering the runes. She uncovered a sequence of mysterious symbols which, when correctly arranged, opened a doorway leading to the castle's basement. The moment the gods entered the basement, Umbra appeared with an army of shadows. Hundreds of shadowy creatures emerged from every corner, forming a menacing black wave. "You will never leave here with the shard," Umbra roared, unleashing a massive surge of darkness aimed directly at the group. Zephyra summoned her wind powers, creating small whirlwinds to slow down the shadow army. "Don't let them near the shard!" she yelled. Nyxara cast Lullaby of Dreams, weakening the will of the shadow creatures, causing them to move sluggishly. Despite her exhaustion, Alindra stood firm in the center, creating an aura of light that shielded the group from Umbra's relentless attacks. As the shadow army overwhelmed them, Zephyra unleashed her full power. She conjured a massive storm, sweeping away the darkness and scattering Umbra's forces. Umbra was forced out of the basement, but not before leaving a dire warning. "You may have won this battle, but the shadows will always linger." At the heart of the basement, the third shard of the shards of creation floated, radiating light that illuminated the entire room, banishing the lingering darkness. Auren stepped forward and carefully took hold of the shard. "Another shard is now ours," he said firmly. The gods quickly fled the castle as it began collapsing, the dark energy sustaining it shattered. Outside, they watched the structure dissolve into the night, a solemn reminder of the lurking danger of the shadows. Alindra stared at the shard, sensing its potent but perilous energy. "The darkness will not leave us in peace. We must prepare for the next challenge." Before they could leave, a familiar silhouette appeared on the horizon. It was Malgrath, bearing a promise of temptation and danger. Chapter 24. Malgrath's Temptation. As the divine group prepared to leave the dark castle's vicinity, a silhouette emerged on the horizon, moving closer under the dim light. It was a man whose face Alindra recognized. Her father, who had perished long ago in a battle against demons. "Father?" Alindra exclaimed, her voice trembling. Auren immediately sensed something amiss. He tightened his grip on the eternal torch, his gaze sharp and wary. "This is not real. Don't let him deceive you." But Alindra couldn't restrain her emotions. She took a step forward, tears brimming in her eyes. "Is it really you, father?" The figure gradually transformed, revealing Malgrath with a sinister smile. "My little daughter," he said, his voice soft yet menacing. "Do you realize the power within you can reshape this world? I can help you achieve it all." Auren stepped forward, his tone firm. "Don't listen to him, Alindra. He embodies lies and darkness." Yet Malgrath's promise of power began to seep into Alindra's mind, causing her resolve to waver. Malgrath continued. "Imagine it. With my power, you could protect everyone you love. You would never have to be weak again. All you need to do is side with me." Alindra. Elandra clenched her fists, her eyes filled with conflict. I just want to keep everyone safe. The divine group watched her anxiously. Zephyra stepped forward, placing a hand on Elandra's shoulder. Don't let him control you. We need you, and you're stronger than his lies. Auren raised the eternal torch, unleashing a powerful burst of light that shattered the darkness surrounding Elandra. She gasped, as though awakening from a nightmare. Malgrath roared, his eyes glowing red. You'll pay for this, Auren!
Enraged, Malgrath summoned a colossal shadow beast, the shadow dragon, with massive wings and razor-sharp teeth. The creature charged toward the group, its roar shaking the ground. Auren raised the eternal torch, conjuring a shield of light to block the beast's initial attack. Everyone, prepare for battle, he shouted. Solara called upon the forces of nature, summoning the breath of the forest, which surrounded the group with glowing vines. The vines quickly entangled the shadow dragon, weakening its power.
We need to cripple it before it destroys everything, Solara urged, sweat dripping from her brow.
Zephyra launched herself forward, creating a powerful whirlwind that pushed the shadow dragon back.
You cannot withstand the power of the skies, she yelled. Now, Nyxara cast the lullaby of illusions, sapping the shadow dragon's will to fight, making it sluggish.
Elandra, regaining her composure, forged a blade of light and struck at the shadow dragon's wings, throwing it off balance. As the beast prepared to unleash its final attack, Auren stepped forward, channeling all the light from the eternal torch. Dawn summoning, he roared, releasing a blinding beam of light that pierced through the shadow dragon, reducing it to darkness. Seeing his defeat, Malgrath smirked. I will return, and next time, you won't stop me.
With that, he vanished into the shadows.
The divine group returned to Auren's Palace of Light. There, they uncovered the fourth fragment of the Shard of Creation, hidden within a glowing stone pedestal. Auren held the fragment, his eyes heavy with concern. We are so close to our goal, but that also means our enemies are more dangerous than ever. Auren decided to fortify the Palace of Light, using the power of all four fragments they had collected. Solian nodded in agreement. I will use time magic to craft a protective barrier, but we will need everyone's cooperation. As the glow of the new barrier illuminated the palace, a sense of unease lingered among them. They won't stop, Zephyra said. Auren and Umbra will return, and this time, they won't be alone.
Standing beside Auren, Elandra whispered, I won't let them destroy what we've built.
But deep in the shadows, a massive army was assembling, readying itself for the next battle. Chapter 25. The Attack on the Palace of Light. The Palace of Light, Auren's fortress, shimmered like a beacon in the night. But the fragile peace surrounding it was short-lived. Auren stood on the highest balcony, his gaze pensive. They will come, sooner or later, he said, his voice deep and resolute. Zephyra, standing beside him, observed the ominous sky. These clouds are unnatural. They're gathering, preparing for something. Ignis, from below, scoffed. If they come, they'll learn the meaning of fire. Elandra held a fragment they had recently recovered, her eyes filled with worry.
Do you think we can protect this place, Auren?
Turning to her, Auren's eyes glimmered with determination. I don't know. But I do know one thing. We will not back down.
A sudden, chilling gust swept through the palace.
The small flames on the torches began to flicker. Solian, holding an hourglass, stepped forward. Time is shifting, he said, his eyes fixed on the sands within. They're here. No sooner had he spoken than the ground quaked. From the horizon, a massive army emerged, led by Vorin, the betrayer of light. Vorin's shadow army surged forward like a dark tide, their roars deafening. A volley of shadowy arrows rained down on the palace, shaking its luminous walls. They're testing our strength, Auren remarked, raising the eternal torch to create a shield of light that deflected the attack. Zephyra launched herself into the fray, her wind-swept wings unfurled. I'll show them the power of the wind, she cried, unleashing razor-sharp wind blades that tore through the shadowy ranks. Not to be outdone, Ignis conjured a massive fireball and hurled it at the heart of the enemy forces.
Taste my flames! He bellowed.
As the shadow army grew more overwhelming, Zephyra and Ignis decided to combine their efforts.
Think your fire is strong enough? Zephyra teased, her tone challenging.
Only if your wind is swift enough, Ignis retorted with a smirk. Zephyra created a whirlwind,
and Ignis infused it with flames, forming a colossal firestorm. The inferno swept through the shadow army, obliterating hundreds in an instant. Voren, however, remained unfazed. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a towering column of darkness that extinguished the firestorm. "Do you think that's enough to stop me?" he said, his voice echoing ominously. Advancing forward, his fiery red eyes locked onto Auren. "I've come not just to destroy you, but to reclaim what rightfully belongs to the darkness." Solian stepped up, his hourglass glowing. "You won't advance so easily," he declared, casting a time spell that slowed the entire shadow army. "I just need more time," Solian muttered, though it was clear the spell was draining his strength. As the shadow army pressed closer, Elandra stood at the palace's center, raising the fragment she held. "This light will protect us," she shouted, creating a radiant barrier that enveloped the palace. The barrier blocked the enemy's attacks but was visibly straining to hold. Auren confronted Voren directly. "You were once the light, but you let darkness turn you into a monster," he said. Voren sneered. "Your light is too feeble to oppose me. You will fail." Calling upon all his strength, Auren unleashed the summoning of dawn, a blinding light that pierced through Voren's shadows. The two clashed, light and darkness colliding in a massive explosion that shook the entire palace. After Auren's final attack, Voren was forced to retreat. He glared at Auren with hatred. "You may have won this time, but you won't hold on for long," he snarled before vanishing with his army. The Palace of Light was left in ruins. Auren collapsed, his strength clearly diminished. "We must prepare better," Zephyra said, her voice tinged with worry. Elandra clenched the fragment tightly. "They will return, and next time, they'll be stronger." As the group of deities deliberated on their next move, Solara stepped forward. "I know of a place," she said. "An ancient forest, where the next fragment might reside. But that place welcomes no one who is not of nature." The deities exchanged knowing looks, realizing that their next challenge would test not only their strength, but their very essence. Chapter 26. Secrets of the Ancient Forest. After careful planning, the group of gods left the Palace of Light and ventured into an ancient forest, Solara, called the Eternal Forest. "This is no ordinary forest," Solara said, gently brushing her hand across the branches. "Every tree, every stream here is alive and possesses its own will. If they reject us, we will never leave this place." "I don't like places like this," Ignis grumbled, his eyes flickering with fire. "The forest is too quiet. It feels like a massive trap." "Stay calm," Elandra said, trying to maintain peace. "This is a trial we must overcome." As the group stepped into the forest, they felt an undeniable strangeness. The trees were not just silent, they seemed to be watching them. Lived. Leaves emitted a faint glow in the dim light, and the wind carried whispers as it passed. "They are judging us," Solara murmured. "Do nothing foolish." When the group reached a clearing, the ground trembled violently. A colossal creature emerged from the earth, towering above the ancient trees. It was the forest spirit, an ancient being made of wood and vines, its eyes glowing like starlight. "Intruders," the forest spirit boomed, its voice resonating like thunder. "Do you deem yourselves worthy of entering my domain?" The spirit conjured a labyrinth of vines, separating the group. "Each of you must face your trial. Fail, and you will become a part of this forest forever." Ignis faced the darkness within himself, the anger and impulsiveness that had once caused him to lose control. Zephyra confronted her fear of betrayal, a wound that had left her deeply scarred in the past. Elandra witnessed her father's image, manipulated by Malgrath, forcing her to choose between trust and doubt. Solara, the only one not separated, sought to commune with the spirit's soul, hoping to find a way to aid her companions. When the trials ended, Ignis returned, but he struggled to suppress the fury still simmering inside. "Why must we follow this forest's rules? If it refuses to let us through, I'll burn it down." "Ignis, stop!" Elandra stepped forward, blocking him. "We must respect this place. Violence will only make things worse." Ignis glared at her, but the fire in his eyes dimmed. "Fine. But I warn you, I won't stand by if it strikes first." Quote, after passing the trials, the group reached a sacred lake at the heart of the forest. The water shimmered with light, and at its center stood a colossal tree, the stellar tree, its branches stretching toward the heavens. "The fragment is there," Solara said,
pointing to the tree's trunk. But it's protected by the will of nature itself. Solara approached the tree, placing her hands gently on its bark. Closing her eyes, she channeled her nature magic into the tree.
"We come not to harm," she said. "We come to protect. Please trust us."
The stellar tree quivered, its glowing leaves brightening. After a moment of stillness, it opened a small passage, revealing the fragment of creation. As the group prepared to leave, a dark storm descended. From within the shadows emerged Caelus, a familiar foe wielding the powers of darkness and water. "Did you think it would be so easy to claim the fragment?" he sneered, his voice dripping with menace.
Caelus summoned waves of black water, flooding the area.
Ignis responded immediately with blazing flames, but Caelus's water dulled their intensity. Zephyra used the winds to disperse the waves, creating openings for her allies. Now, Nyxara cast the lullaby of illusions, clouding Caelus's focus and slowing his attacks. Solara, drawing strength from the forest, commanded vines to entangle Caelus. With the fragment in hand, Elandra unleashed a powerful beam of light, piercing Caelus. He roared in pain and retreated into the shadows.
"Do not think this is over."
"I will return," he shouted before disappearing. As the battle ended, the group let out a collective sigh of relief.
"We've won this fight, but the darkness won't stop," Auren said, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Elandra stared at the newly acquired fragment, feeling a surge of power coursing through her. Yet deep within, Malgrath's whispers lingered like an unending nightmare.
Chapter 27. Elandra's Nightmare. As darkness receded after the previous battle, the divine group returned to the central temple to rest and discuss their next move. Auren stood before the eternal torch, his eyes filled with contemplation. Elandra sat in a secluded corner, holding the newly found artifact shard, but her heart was restless. The whispers lingered in her mind, soft and enticing. "Why are you here, fighting for something so meaningless? You could be so much more. I will show you how to achieve everything." Elandra shook her head, trying to dispel the voices, but they only grew louder. She didn't know that, far away in the shadows, Malgrath was watching her, a wicked smile on his face. Night fell, and Elandra drifted into sleep. But instead of peace, she found herself in a strange realm. Beneath her feet, the ground shimmered with dazzling gemstones, and above her, the sky sparkled with stars. At the center stood a throne encrusted with jewels, where Malgrath lounged, his golden eyes fixed on her.
"Welcome, Elandra," he said, his deep voice dripping with allure. "Aren't you curious why I chose you?" Elandra stepped back, a chill running down her spine. "You can't sway me," she said, though her voice trembled. "Oh, I don't need to sway you. I just need to show you what you desire most." With a wave of his hand, the scenery changed. Before Elandra appeared her family, those she had lost long ago. They smiled and waved at her. A surge of pain filled Elandra's heart. She wanted to run to them, but something held her back. No, this is just an illusion," she whispered to herself, but her heart screamed otherwise.
In the central temple, Nyxara was meditating when she sensed a strange energy emanating from Elandra's room. Thick darkness surrounded it, like an unseen tide encroaching. "Malgrath," she murmured, her violet eyes glowing brightly. Without hesitation, she used her spell, Lullaby of Illusions, to enter Elandra's dream. Upon entering the dream world, Nyxara felt Malgrath's overwhelming power. He had turned the dream into a vast labyrinth, filled with traps and illusions, designed to ensnare Elandra. Nyxara found Elandra standing frozen before a door, her hands trembling. Behind the door, Malgrath's laughter echoed, and his voice tempted her. "Just open this door, and you will be reunited with your family. They are waiting for you."
"Don't listen to him!" Nyxara shouted, pulling Elandra away. "He only wants to use you!"
Elandra turned, tears streaming down her face.
"But they're my family. I can't abandon them. They're not real. They're illusions created by Malgrath. You must trust me."
Nyxara's voice was firm yet filled with compassion. Malgrath appeared, his cold gaze locking onto Nyxara.
"You always meddle in matters that don't concern you, Nyxara.
But this time, you will fail." Malgrath transformed the labyrinth into a massive arena. He summoned shadowy creatures to attack Nyxara and Elandra. Nyxara wielded her shadow magic to shield them both, but Malgrath grew stronger, feeding on Elandra's hesitation. Ilandra, all you have to do is agree, and I will stop. You won't have to suffer anymore, Malgrath said, his eyes hypnotic as they bore into her. No! Nyxara shouted, her eyes blazing. Ilandra, remember why you are here. Darkness only has power if you allow it. Ilandra closed her eyes, trying to focus. Images of her family, Malgrath's tempting words, all of it swirled in a storm within her mind. But then, she remembered Auren, the promise to protect the light, and her heart began to steady. A burst of light erupted from within her, banishing the darkness. Malgrath roared in fury, but was forced to retreat. Ilandra awoke, drenched in sweat but with her eyes shining brighter than ever. She looked at Nyxara, who sat beside her, her gaze gentle. I owe you again, Nyxara, Ilandra said. No thanks are needed. You saved yourself, Nyxara replied, a faint smile crossing her lips. Ilandra felt a new power rising within her. It wasn't just the power of light, but a balance between light and shadow. Auren entered the room, nodding with approval. You've overcome your greatest trial, Ilandra. Now, you're stronger than ever. Chapter 28. A Perilous Negotiation. In the dim light of the central temple, the deities gathered after Ilandra's trial. Solien, the god of time, stood silently before the eternal hourglass, his silver-lit eyes reflecting unease. We need answers, Solien said, his voice calm yet commanding. Malgrath won't stop. He's playing his own game, and we must uncover the rules before it's too late. Auren nodded, though his gaze was filled with caution. Do you plan to face him alone, Solien? This is no trivial matter. There's no other choice, Solien replied, gripping the hourglass tightly. I will meet him, if I don't return. His voice trailed off as his eyes swept over the assembled deities. Continue the mission without me. Using the spell Stasis, Solien opened a portal to the Shadowlands where Malgrath resided. The sky above the region was dark and foreboding, illuminated only by glowing blood-red stones. Solien could feel the oppressive weight of the darkness, but his resolve remained unshaken as he strode steadily toward Malgrath's palace. Malgrath, the demon of greed, awaited him. The demon sat on a throne surrounded by glittering treasures, all radiating a sinister energy. When Solien entered, Malgrath smirked, his golden eyes gleaming. God of time, what an honor to have you, Malgrath said mockingly. Have you come to surrender? I've come to talk, Solien replied, his tone steady and firm. You know why I'm here. Malgrath rose from his throne, circling Solien slowly. What is it you seek, God of time? I could tell you everything for a small price. Solien didn't respond immediately. Instead, he locked eyes with Malgrath, as if trying to pierce the demon's mind. You and the other demons are working together. What is your goal? Malgrath chuckled. A goal? Do you think we're merely senseless destroyers? No, we want something far greater. A new world, free of gods, free of imposed laws. Drawing closer, Malgrath whispered, Do you know, Solien? You noble deities have remained unchanged for far too long. This world needs a cleansing? Solien's face remained impassive. You intend to destroy this world with your storm of annihilation, but do you realize that even darkness cannot exist without light? Malgrath paused, his golden eyes glinting with menace. You're wise, Solien, but naive. I don't need light, only the greed of humans to sustain my darkness. Malgrath raised his hand, conjuring an image in the air. It was a massive storm, swirling violently across the sky, with crimson lightning tearing through the darkness. This is the future, Solien, Malgrath said. While you gods bicker, we are ready. This storm will consume everything. Solien studied the image, his gaze cold and steady. You forget. Your darkness is not eternal. The gods will stop you, Malgrath sneered. We'll see. Suddenly, Malgrath's demeanor shifted, his eyes sharpening dangerously. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a wave of darkness that engulfed the space around Solien. But first, let me test your strength, God of time, Malgrath snarled. Solien immediately activated stasis, slowing everything around him. He knew he couldn't defeat Malgrath in the demon's domain, but he also couldn't afford to show weakness. Summoning a time portal, he retreated from the Shadowlands. Back at the central temple, Solien convened the deities without delay. He recounted what he had seen, including the image of the apocalyptic storm. We don't have much time, he warned.
Malgrath and the other demons are closer than ever to their goal. We must accelerate the search for the fragments, or everything will be lost. Auren nodded, his light blazing with intensity. We will not let darkness prevail. The gods divided their tasks, each assigned to a different region to search for the remaining fragments. They all understood that the coming battles would test not just their strength, but their willpower. The eternal torch burned brightly as each god prepared for their mission.
Solien stood silently before the eternal hourglass, his gaze darkened by a vague premonition. He murmured, "Time is not on our side." Chapter 29. A warning from the primordial world. In the central temple, the eternal flame flickered brightly, yet Solien's eyes remained fixed on the hourglass in his hands. The shimmering sand within moved erratically, as if trying to signal an impending anomaly. Taking a deep breath, Solien closed his eyes and said, "The primordial world holds the answers we need." Auren nodded, his gaze heavy with worry. "Are you certain they'll listen to us? Ancient entities aren't always benevolent."
"We have no choice," Solien replied, lifting the hourglass. "Time is slipping away too quickly. Without their aid, we will fail." Using an ancient spell, Solien traced a circle on the ground, silver runes glowing brilliantly. As he chanted, a colossal time gate materialized, its light cutting through the fabric of space like bolts of lightning. The gate opened to a breathtaking scene. The primordial world, where the skies shimmered emerald, mountains floated in mid-air, and rivers of light flowed upward. Enormous, ethereal beings exuded an overwhelming aura of majesty, scattered throughout the landscape. Though they were silent, their presence touched the depths of the mind. Solien stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "O ancient beings, we seek your guidance. The darkness approaches, and we must stop it." The divine entity, bathed in golden light, emerged, its voice resonating like a tolling bell. "You dare enter this realm with a chaotic mind, Solien? Prove you are worthy of our assistance." The divine entity created a shifting timeline, thrusting Solien into his past and future. He witnessed the gods' failures and the losses he couldn't prevent. A voice echoed in his mind. "Can you alter destiny, or are you merely a puppet of time?" With eyes burning with determination, Solien responded, "Time does not dictate everything. Our actions and willpower shape the future." Satisfied with his answer, the divine entity presented Solien with an ancient map, marked with the locations of the final two fragments of the fragments of creation. "But remember," the entity warned, "you have only one chance. If you fail, the darkness will consume not just your world but also this one." Back at the central temple, Solien spread the map across the table. Two locations were marked. One in the boundless winds of Zephyra's domain, and the other deep within the ocean governed by Thalios. Auren pondered. "We'll need to split up and act immediately. Eris, Zephyra and Alandra, you two will head to the windy region. Thalios, lead the second team to the deep seas." Zephyra shrugged, her wind-swept wings fluttering slightly. "I can find it, but that region won't be easy to traverse." Alandra, still recovering from her dream encounter with Malgrath, stood up. "I'll go with Zephyra. Ericla, if the darkness is present, I'll face it." Auren placed a firm hand on her shoulder, his gaze warm. "You've proven your courage. But be cautious, Erich. We can't afford to lose anyone else."
Zephyra and Alandra left the temple, flying over fields of flowers and majestic mountains. The windy region lay at the edge of the world, where the air was thin and frigid, and massive tornadoes roamed ceaselessly. "Are you afraid?" Zephyra asked, her sparkling eyes glancing at Alandra. "I've faced Malgrath in my dreams. These winds are nothing," Alandra replied, though her voice trembled slightly. As they neared the region's center, a colossal tornado swept them up. Zephyra summoned the Tempest of Freedom, carving a safe path, but they immediately sensed the darkness lurking within the winds. At the heart of the region, they encountered a massive dark creature, shaped like an eagle with blazing red eyes. It dove at them with razor-sharp talons and winds as cutting as blades. Alandra used light magic she had learned from Auren to form a shield, while Zephyra circled above, creating whirlwinds to weaken the beast. The battle was fierce, with bursts of wind and light clashing, sparking brilliantly across the sky. Finally, combining their powers, they vanquished the creature and discovered the fragment hidden within a glowing stone at the region's center.
Meanwhile, back at the central temple, Solian stood silently before the hourglass. He sensed a disturbance in the timeline, a new darkness creeping forth, not from Malgrath, but from a force even deeper and more distant. He thought to himself, perhaps even we do not fully understand what is unfolding. As Zephyra and Elandra returned with the fragment, the gods had little time to celebrate before a violent tremor shook the temple. Auren stepped outside, his gaze sharp and unyielding as he looked toward the horizon. They've arrived.
Welcome to Fantasy Realms. Enjoy the story, and thank you for your support. Chapter 30. The Wrath of the Demon. As Zephyra and Elandra returned with the artifact shard, the central temple trembled violently, as though the universe itself was issuing a warning. The sky outside darkened, and the wind howled like mournful cries. Auren stepped forward, his light radiating with intensity, illuminating the space. "They're here," he said, his voice low but commanding. Solara, the goddess of nature, immediately sensed the invasion of darkness encroaching upon her domain. "The natural realm is under attack," she declared, her voice quivering not with fear, but with anger. In the heart of the natural realm, darkness engulfed the land. Malgrath and Umbra led an army of demons, ravaging the ancient forest. Towering trees fell amidst the roars of shadowy destruction. Solara appeared in the midst of the battlefield, her vine-like hair glowing, her form merging seamlessly with the surrounding nature. She summoned the breath of the forest, transforming fallen trees into living warriors that charged at the demons.
"Do you think these feeble trees can stop me, Solara?"
Malgrath sneered, his golden eyes gleaming. He raised his hand, conjuring a whirlwind of sinister light that obliterated scores of her forest warriors. Yet Solara remained undeterred. She pressed her hand to the ground, summoning a massive wooden dragon from the earth's depths. The dragon roared and lunged at Malgrath, forcing him to retreat. On the other side of the forest, Ignis, the god of fire, confronted Caelus, the demon of black flames. Two flames, Corone blazing red, the other ominously black, clashed, generating waves of scorching heat. Caelus laughed heartily, his burning eyes full of mockery. "Ignis, you cannot win. Your fire is but a dim spark compared to my power."
"Then let me prove you wrong!" Ignis roared, his flaming sword igniting with ferocity. He charged at Caelus, each swing of his blade unleashing fiery storms. Caelus countered with his black flames, tendrils of darkness consuming the air and incinerating everything in their path. Their fiery duel left the forest scorched and barren, a wasteland where even Solara's strongest trees could not endure. As the fierce battles raged on, Umbra silently cast a shroud of darkness over the entire area, plunging the gods into an inescapable gloom. Shadowy tendrils crept forth, launching surprise attacks from every direction. Solian immediately sensed the danger. He raised his hourglass and cast Frozen Motion, slowing time for a brief instant. In that fleeting moment, he created a circle of light, shielding the gods from Umbra's tendrils. "They're not just attacking," Solian said, his deep voice filled with resolve. "They're trying to extinguish all hope." Under Auren's leadership, the gods united to repel the onslaught. Zephyra summoned massive tornadoes, sweeping away the lesser demons. Nyxara employed the lullaby of illusions to disorient stronger foes, causing them to turn on one another. Auren stepped forward, his light blazing brightly. He chanted the summoning of dawn, unleashing a radiant wave of light that banished the darkness engulfing the battlefield. Even as they gained the upper hand temporarily, Malgrath and Umbra had already achieved their goal. In Malgrath's hand, the final shard glowed faintly. "Away. Well done, all of you," Malgrath said with a mocking smile. "But I have won." With that, he vanished alongside Umbra, leaving the gods seething with anger and regret. After ensuring the safety of the natural realm, the gods returned to the central temple. The atmosphere in the room was heavier than ever. Auren stood at the center, his eyes shining like the sun. "We can wait no longer," he declared, his voice a rallying call to arms. "It is time we strike directly at the demon's stronghold. Only then can we reclaim what has been taken." The other gods nodded in agreement. None voiced dissent. They all understood that this would be the greatest and most decisive battle yet. As preparations for the assault began, Elandra felt a sharp pain in her head. Dull, blurry images flashed before her eyes. A suffocating darkness, a familiar voice calling her name. Elandra whispered, her voice trembling, "I need to know what this means."